What does it mean to live? To fully live? Living is about feeling, and feeling is about presence. Being present in the face of joy and challenge. Because every moment is a moment worth living.
So Ben, one of the first things I wanted to ask you about today is, because you're a guy, you get up, you're pretty motivated, you're very inspired, you inspire a lot of us, and you're a beast in your own world that you've created, and so and you're always on, right? And so one of the questions I wanted to ask is, and I wrote it right here, is how do you stay awake in your day? And by what I mean by awake is not necessarily drinking coffee, but how do you stay awake? How are you aware? How are you awake in your day? What do you practice to be aware, to be consciously aware of your own unconsciousness?
I go in and out of anxiety and depression and fear and gratitude and excitement, and I go in and out of financial wins and losses and debt and all these things, but at the end of the day, I just try to remember that none of it's really that serious, because I'm going to be dead soon. Even if I live to 120 years old, I'm going to be dead soon. You know what I mean? Right. Like I'm 42 years old. If I live to 120, bro, that's 80 years. I mean, it's not that long. And, even if I live to 80, that's only 38 more years. I mean, so I'm beyond the halfway point of my life. And then God forbid if I'm going to die in my 50s, 60s, or 70s. I mean, I really don't have that much time. I think that a life well lived is one that is filled with action. I just don't know any other way, man. My perspective has always been that life is temporary. Speaking of religious conflicts and things, which we find ourselves in once again, when I was in my early 20s, I was fortunate enough to survive going to Iraq and experiencing that. But one thing I had to do when I was there, because I was so afraid for the first couple months, I was so scared to do anything. I was scared to go outside. I was scared to go on missions. I was scared to do anything. And what I saw is other guys that were acting like that were getting killed, man. And so ultimately I had to make peace with God. And I made a deal with God. And I said, listen, I just want you to make me a deal that if I'm going to die here, that I would have died anywhere. Like, even if I would have been at home, I might have gotten ran over by a car. Or even if I would have been out in California, I would have gotten eaten by a shark or whatever. Like, I had to put it in my mind where, hey, you don't need to be afraid, because you only have one death in this life. And if that death is going to be here, then it's predetermined. So there's nothing to be afraid of. Like, you didn't mind, like, everybody's afraid of death, but like you didn't really mind the time before you were here, like before you were born. Like, you're not afraid of that. I mean, there was a time before we existed, and there's going to be a time after we exist. And I don't really know what comes after that, but I know that I have this time right now. And all we really get, so back to your question, like, all we really ever get is one day. That's all we get, man. It's just a series of todays. Our conscious present moment is in this space called today. And that's all we ever have. So yesterday's gone. It really doesn't even exist except in my memory or maybe on my bank statement. And tomorrow's not real because it hasn't come here yet. So neither the past or the future are real. The only thing that's real is this moment. Because, dude, I think that we've all had experiences like a football season where I can look back and be like, I probably should have given it more. I probably could have gotten another couple touchdowns, or maybe you go through a business deal and you're like, you know what? I kind of slacked off a little bit there. I know I did, and I wish I would have really kicked ass instead. That's based on the supposition that I'm going to be present and mindful at the end of my life. I mean, if I make it to 120 years old and I'm sitting there and I look back on my life, you know, I don't want to be like, I wish I would have hit the gas a little harder, you know? I want to be like, fucking right, bitch. I got after it. You know, exactly. I got fucking after it. Maybe I didn't hit every number that I thought I would hit. Maybe I didn't, you know, drive every car that I thought I would drive. Maybe all the material shit didn't necessarily line up how I wanted it to, but that's all material shit, bro. That's all, right. That's all the material world. I want to be able to look back and say, me, Ben Heidenreich, I fucking went in on this thing called life, and I didn't back off.
No, and I agree with you. I think that, you know, our past, I find, as you know, we've been friends quite a while, and you know, and we both have seen each other, observed each other's lives, and we've been through a lot. And like any normal human being, everybody goes through a lot, you know, because I always sit in front of people that are like, I've been through a lot. And I'm like, we've all been through a fucking lot. You know what I mean? We've all been through
it's relative.
Yeah, exactly. But I talk to younger folks sometimes, and they'll say things like, oh, I can't, you know, I'm turning 30, or I'm turning 20 in my life, and this and that. And,
right.
And then one of the things I've learned is that, you know, all that past that we've experienced, as long as we learn from it, and as long as we learn to, you know, you learn from the memories, but when you take away the emotions, like one of the things I practice is to get away from the business of, oh, I wish, or I should have did this, or I could have done this, or I could have been over there and been over here, or I wish I was there right now, right? Because all I have is the present. All I have is this moment, and I'm in love with this moment. And the more I'm in love with this moment, there is infinite love in the moment. And as long as I know that I'm the creator, I create my own reality, then everything just makes more sense to me. So then when I look back at those times, I'm like, well, you know what? When I look at those memories, when I look at the past, when I cut the emotional stuff out of it, because emotions are just programs in our cells anyways, then I realize, I'm like, wow, there's, you know, what I've learned here is that, you know, all those memories of the past without the emotions are just wisdom. And you just learn, and, you know, and just like yourself, because I watch you sometimes when you get on in your social media and you're like, today I'm going to go out and I'm going to like crush it, right? You know, staying awake in your day is just being awake in your day, being conscious in your day. Because the way I see it, I'm like, all right, the only reality I have is my consciousness. And everything else comes down to my words, my actions, and my thoughts. And this dominates my life, you know, not just me, everybody. And, you know, so I think it's and I've just noticed with you, you're one of those guys who's pretty awake in your day, and you're very aware, especially in a business sense, because you're aware of, like, you find things that I just, you know, even working together in the past, like, you find things that I just never see or expect. You know what I mean? I think that's a beautiful trait. And that's why again, that question came up.
Well, dude, like even the word awake, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so my godfather, his name is Grant Peebles, and he's awesome, but he's a fucking communist. Okay. I mean, the guy is just absolutely off his rocker. He plays folk music and stuff. And like, you know, I mean, and I love him, you know, but he's just absolutely, we couldn't be more different in our opinion of, you know,
keep talking,
how society should be. I'm more of a capitalist. He's more of a communist, right? Or socialist, I guess is a softer way to say that. But so he always does these little, you know, chintzy like Facebook posts and shit like that. And, you know, he's got this whole following. So like I'm always the asshole in his thing, you know what I mean? Like everybody's like, all the comments are like, oh, blah, 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 and I'm like, fuck you, you know? I mean, like, and and not in a mean way, like, you know, I mean, I call him, I mean, we talk, you know, I mean, and I tell him, you know, I'm like, look, man, but point is, he wrote this Facebook the other day, and it said, what is the opposite of woke? Okay.
Okay.
And my comment was awake.
Right. Which makes a lot of sense to me.
Because woke is like, you have to like follow all these like guidelines, and you have to like follow all this like bullshit of like what you can say and what you can't say, and like who's going to be offended and like all this kind of stuff. Right? How can you possibly have free thought when you're buried in that whole matrix of like, oh, ding, 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 ding. Okay, whoa, I can say that. Like, no, it's bullshit. So like being awake is just being free, bro. It's just free thought. It's just like, it's just fluid. It's just like the universe has intelligence that you can like download. I mean, I don't care if you believe in God or Allah or freaking Jesus or whoever the Hindus believe in or whatever. Dude, you can ask the universe a question and you will get an answer that you didn't have, you know, before. That's awake to me, you know?
Well, to your
awake
point,
is the opposite of woke.
Well, to your point, it's interesting when you say you ask a question and you will get answers. You know, what people don't realize is when you take a breath, right? One of the things that I've come to learn is that when I take a breath, when I breathe and I hold my breath for 60 seconds and I feel my body tingling and I feel the vibration in my body changing and I just feel, you know, and then I just let go and how awake I feel. That's not me. That's a higher power. That's a higher force doing that, right? Because I'm just a spirit in this, you know, makeup. And, you know, when you're talking about, when you said the word guides, is when you take the time and you practice, just like anything else, when you practice stepping away and looking from the outside in, you begin to connect with those guides. There are guides. Yes. There are people, you know, we are not alone here, right? There's all sorts of energy that surrounds us. And it's just a matter of us tapping into those energies. It's just same way where if Ben wants to drive a Lamborghini tomorrow, or Ben, because I know you like exotic cars, or Ben wants,
I like Lamborghinis too. Oh my God.
I know you do. So if Ben wants this like power boat, the Ben that has that power, as long as you thought about it in your head, when you form that substance in your head consciously and you see it, you form that thought. When you form that thought and you can see it, you can hold it in your hand. It means that exists. It means that Ben who has a BMW or whatever exotic car you're driving now, that Ben who has this car now, that all Ben needs to do is align himself with that dimension, with that Ben that already exists with the Lamborghini. It's already there. It's just you have to align yourself with it. So to get there and to be there, you have to listen to yourself. And when you're listening to yourself, you're not alone. You're guided. You know, if you, like you said yourself, the answer is there. If you ask the question, if you simply ask the question, like if you ask your question, like, what am I excited about? You know, most people ask the question like, they don't even ask questions. They talk about like what they have to, like, I have to do this, or why did this happen to me? Or why do I need to do this? Or I can't wait till it's Friday, instead of saying like, it doesn't matter what day of the fucking week it is. It doesn't matter what time it is. Like, what am I excited about right now? You know, what do I love? What am I grateful for? What am I thankful for? And, you know, all of a sudden everything starts to open up, and, you know, and then you go in internally and you ask, you say like, you know, like even with the problem, I just did a video and I was talking about the fact that no problem is bigger than we are. Because if it was, we wouldn't be here right now doing a conversation. We wouldn't be alive. We wouldn't be here. Everything is there to help us grow and get to the next level.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely, man.
That's the way that's the way I see it. It's just, again, it's align yourself with that and align yourself with that. that energy. I can go into a workout and think about 1,000 other things and just, go about my day. Or while I'm in the workout, I can literally align myself with an energy system that will, somewhere in the world, at some point, at some time, maybe, light years away, somebody is like working out right now and they have unbelievable stamina. How do I align myself with them? How do I get some of that energy? And all of a sudden, my stance changes, when I'm boxing, all of a sudden, I'm aware of what's going on in my body.